also want to point out the second thing that came to mind with your answer, and that was this whole idea of women wanting to be protected, which is real, right? Every woman I've ever spoke to, that's real. That's something that they really desire in a man. That's what they look for in a mate, right? However, this whole idea of wanting a protector, even if that means getting a quote unquote thug, it speaks to gender roles, right? And issues. I mean, from time immemorial, we've always had specific gender roles. And the one thing I want to point out to women out here as a man is that your desire for that protector has never changed, but that has consequences.
True.
If you want somebody to be that protector, he's going to be a man. He's good. That brings all kinds of other stuff with it.
Yes.
That means you want an alpha male. That means you want a man who knows what he wants, how he's going to get it, and expects things to happen a certain way and will protect you if things don't, if anything threatens you. There's a certain type of mentality that comes to, I'm going to whip anybody's behind out here if they ever put a hand on you. There's a mentality that comes with that. It doesn't just happen. And yet we have these changing gender roles in which it's not even understood now what's a man's role, what's a woman's role. We don't even agree person by person anymore on what our role should be. And I think that's a real issue. If you want men to be your protector, that means you expect them to be a man. And yet there are challenges. If he acts like that man, women seem to not necessarily want all of that smoke. Your thoughts on that? I'm just curious what you thought.
Okay, so the reason for the facial expressions is because it's kind of like sometimes we, and I have to say we because I am a female. So in a certain sense, yes, we, I guess, ride both sides of the fence, so to speak. We want that protector. We want that alpha male. We want him to take control of certain situations, not all. So as you stated, yes, we want that person who's going to bat for us. We want that person to take charge, all of that. But then when you combine him with an alpha female, now you have problems. And one of the words that comes into play is the word submissive. And I know we have to be very, very, very careful with that word so as not to offend people. Everyone is not on board with that word. Yes. And when you have an alpha female, that can be a problem because she might have been brought up to feel that submissive means she's a yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And that may not necessarily be true. It might be submissive in certain things, not all things. But once she hears that word submissive, she may shut down. For her, that might be a trigger word. And now things are going left before they can even stay here or go right. Now we have a whole nother problem.
Okay, I want to table that because you're so smart. You're actually jumping into where we're going with this. And that's just because you're smart like that. And I appreciate that. We're going to get to that because those are real issues. And I want to give it its due and really dig into that. But to help set that up, I want to talk about something else that I just realized actually just yesterday. People have been talking for the last few months about Kevin Samuels and his passing, right? Not that long ago. But I want to point out that this has been an argument. This has been a debate between men and women for decades. And in fact, in 1989, Shahrazad Ali wrote a book called The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. And if you're familiar with that, she gave harsh criticism of Black women. Now, this is adding some cultural aspect to it too, because we're speaking generally men and women. Shahrazad Ali, of course, added the cultural element where she was speaking specifically to Black women, but it's all appropriate, I think, for our discussion, where she was highly critical of Black women and for just the sort of things we've been talking about. And needless to say, she got tremendous blowback from women who tried to destroy her for talking about for actually holding women accountable for what was happening in relationships. And I have two quotes of hers. I want to say the first one, get your response, and then I want to hit the second one. Okay. So here's the first one. She said, the problem with the book wasn't whether or not it was true. The problem with the book was she wasn't supposed to tell it.
Okay.
Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Come on now.
So,
Talk to me.
okay. So, you have codes, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Codes of the street, codes within relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, plural
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Yes.
So, sometimes I think both sexes feel that there's just some things that you keep to yourself and you don't display in public.
Mm-hmm.
There may be specifics, there may not be specifics.
Yeah.
But it's weird because at the end of the day, we want you to read our mind. But then at the end of the day, we don't want you to read our mind. So
you see my face, right?
If you know all our codes, then you're sort of reading our mind, and then that's a whole nother problem. Relationships are complicated.
Yes.
And it's not a one size fits all. And unfortunately, many people approach relationships in that way, which is where a lot of problems come in.
Yeah.
Because what's good for John is not good for Mark, and what's good for Lisa is not good for Sally. And that's where a lot of conflict comes in, which is any relationship I get in, any interaction I get in, I push communication.
Yeah.
And I don't leave communication because we always say, oh, I need you to communicate. But that's two-sided. Yeah. I, as the communicator, have to ensure that you, as the receiver, understand and receive what I'm conveying to you. Yes. And back and forth. It can't be, well, you understand what I mean. Well, you know what I mean. No, upbringing, experience, life gives you different perceptions on different things. Yes. I'm sure you and I could get into a long drawn out conversation about the way you might see something versus it might be the same topic, but you might see it totally different. And it's not necessarily gender. It could be individual.
Yeah. Well, you bring out a couple of really important points. Again, you leave a lot to discuss here. I just want to jump in with a couple of things before I get to the next quote. So first of all, you speak to one of the challenges I think women have in seeing good men, and that is that our minds think and process information differently, right? And this is proven. This is research. Do the research. We don't have the time here to really go into all of it, but do the research. Right. You'll find our minds are wired differently, talking about men and women. Number one, we do not respond to emotion and feelings as men like that. We are not emotional creatures, generally speaking. And no, we cannot read your minds. That is not a power that men have generally. And I know personally a lot of women out there who respond emotionally in a very negative manner if the man cannot read her thought. Well, you should know what I mean. You should know. If you care about me, if you love me, you should know. And no, we are very direct and we're problem solvers. If you spend a lot of time in your emotion and talking about all that, we tune all of that out because in our minds, the only thing we're really focused on is what is the solution? And that leads to a lot of issues in our relationships because a lot of times women, from my understanding, they just want to be heard. They don't necessarily want us to provide the solution. They just want to be heard. But guess what? That's not who men are, right? Those are, you got girlfriends for that. Right? You got girlfriends to talk to. You have females in your life that you can talk to if you just want to be heard. Now, men can do that, obviously. But know that a man is going to want to focus on solving it. So that's the first thing. So I want to also jump to the second quote that I think really jumps to the heart of this. And then after we talk about this, I'm just going to throw out some words, some topics, and I just want you to hit them. You ready for that?
I'm trying to be ready.
All right, here we go. Okay, so here's the second quote Shahrazad Ali gave in about Black men and the Black men's guide to understanding the Black women. This I thought was powerful. She said, talking about women, she said, we don't mind having a man around as long as he doesn't act like one. And she said, you know, as soon as he starts giving his expectations, as soon as he starts giving his guidance, his thoughts on how things are going to be or how they should be, then we get everybody at that point. Oh, no, you're not going to tell me what to do. You're not going to lay your expectation. It's not good. You're not going to rule over me. And so, no, they don't mind having a man around. Now, this is a woman saying this, right? But she said, we don't mind having a man around as long as he doesn't act like one. I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you remember, but I made reference to that in an early part of our dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're looking at control.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly that's what she's perceiving.
Mm-hmm.
He's not, but she is.
Right.
So now you have a whole new problem, a whole new can of worms that opened up. So she's shutting down and going into defensive and attack mode.
Right.
Because, oh, you're not going to tell me what to do. You're not going to control. No, that's not what we're doing here. So now you're getting all of that. He in turn is getting defensive off of what she's delivering. Now the whole thing then went left. And now we have a problem. And it's escalating depending on the two individuals that are having this interaction. Mm-hmm. It can either be one, he shuts down and walks away. Well, now that's a whole nother problem. How dare you walk away when I'm talking to you?
Yep. It's a problem because it's a problem, and it's complicated because what's a lingering theme throughout all of this are the gender roles have changed, and we're lost in terms of having clear definition, right? About what our gender roles are. And then two, we're getting twisted in this whole idea of whether or not we're focused on our vision or whether or not we're focused on what's happening today.